2, 1.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday Set.
In today's episode, we hear about the benefits of dry January, the real reason you're struggling to kick your junk food habits, and how diet and lifestyle changes can help you ward off disease and ageing. But first, it was on this day in 1838 the first ever telegraph message using Morse code was transmitted in the United States. Letters represented by a series of dots and lines read, "A patient waiter is no loser." Celebrated Christmas a little too hard? You might be looking to change things up. January is upon us once more, marking a month of abstinence from alcohol for many. An estimated 9 million people will participate in Dry January this year, according to Alcohol Concern. The campaign, which was devised by the charity in 2013 to change drinking culture, has boomed in popularity over the past decade, quickly becoming a global New Year's tradition. But what makes a successful Dry January? By now we're already well into the month, and those resolutions might be starting to slip, but that shouldn't stop you.
What you're trying to do with Dry January, what you're really trying to do is learn.
This is Dr. Richard Piper, the CEO of Alcohol Change UK, talking to Bloomberg Quick Take.
I mean, the first thing to be very clear about is it needs to be the start of a journey, not just something on its own and then back to normal. So if you find yourself that you had a drink, you really don't want to beat yourself up about that, because actually what you want to be doing is reflecting on what happened. Was it Jim and went wrong with Jim, or it's that cupboard, when I go past that cupboard I know that glass is in there, or it's a time of day, or it was a particular stress. If you can work out what those triggers are, you've had a successful Dry January, a really successful Dry January. So you learn that you feel so much better. You learn that you don't need alcohol to have fun, to go out, to relax. And this is incredible learning. And this is learning that will last you a lifetime.
So what are the benefits of going alcohol-free for a month?
The first benefits, I think, are immediate and physical, and your skin will improve, you will save money, you'll have more energy, you'll be sleeping better. Second group of benefits are on your inside. So you won't know this, but your liver will have started to repair. Even the cancer-related proteins in your blood, the alcohol-related cancer proteins will have started to reduce, and your blood pressure will have dropped. So just after 31 days, your physical health will improve. Then your mood and your mental health will also start to improve. People talk about suddenly feeling really present in the world and being able to be much sharper, much clearer, much more focused. And then finally, there's a group of benefits for the long term, because by doing Dry January, you learn the benefits, but also you learn the difficulties, you learn the challenges, you learn your associations with alcohol, and you learn how to beat them.
Many people associate drinking with socialising and meeting friends, making Dry January an extra challenge. For Richard, this is one of the keys to unravelling our relationship to alcohol.
We associate drinking with fun. And in particular, the drink that we're drinking has to contain alcohol, we think, to have fun. And it turns out it just isn't true. It's a lie, really. It's been sold to us, but it's not true. The reality is you can go out with friends and have as much fun, if not more fun, without the alcohol in your drinks. There is a massive boom in alcohol-free drinks at the moment, and with good reason. They taste fabulous. You feel that you're treating yourself. You can be having a really good evening out, but you haven't got that sort of 9:30 p.m. people start slurring, people start shouting, people start repeating their stories. You actually get a quality of conversation all through the evening, and next morning you remember all of it. There is a view that some people are alcoholics and everyone else isn't. In reality, drinking problems are on a spectrum. And although some people do have what we would call alcohol dependency, there's a huge group here who are heavy drinkers, who are on their way to dependency. And if they don't change their drinking, will stand a very high risk of either early death or alcohol dependency. But who can bring their drinking back, often with relatively little external support. Something like Dry January can be enough to help those drinkers take control. So anyone who's drinking every day, anyone who's drinking, maybe a bottle of wine or 2 a day, which is really common, anyone who's tried to stop and found they can't, anyone who said, I won't drink tonight, but then find that they do, those are the kinds of people who can benefit massively from a Dry January, because what it can do is allow you to break that habit and then have that new relationship with alcohol where you're in control.
It may be midwinter, but Europe's in a heat wave. 8 countries have had their warmest ever January days, from Latvia and Belarus in the east and the Netherlands and Denmark in the west. New regional records have also been set in France, Germany and Spain. The south of England's just on the fringes. It's mild but not exceptionally so. But that's not the case across the rest of Europe. In Warsaw, Poland, they reached 18.9 degrees on New Year's Day. That's 4 degrees higher than the previous record. And in Bilbao, northern Spain, temperatures reached 24.9 degrees. That's the average temperature for July. This has meant beach weather for some at what should be the coldest time of the year. Normally temperature records are beaten by a few tenths of a degree, but temperatures this time have been absolutely smashed. The reason's a massive warm air over North Africa, which has also been exceptionally hot over land and sea.
Well, to be quite frank, it's remarkable, not just the scale of this, the band of warm weather that has passed across Europe from just off the coast of West Africa, has gone across Spain, through Central Europe. It's been warming everywhere up as far as Ukraine and beyond.
This is Jonathan Fisher, a BBC climate correspondent.
Meteorologists are calling it an extreme weather event. It's very much not run-of-the-mill. We're seeing temperatures of 19 degrees in places where the average is usually below zero for this time of year.
When we hear of these extreme weather events, it's always tempting to point the blame at climate change. Is that what's happening here? Here's Professor Liz Bentley, Chief Executive of the Royal Meteorological Society, speaking with Sky News.
Now, we do get these weather patterns setting up. We have seen that in the past, but because of climate change, because we've turned that background kind of temperature up by a degree or so, it means that when we get these weather patterns like this, the temperatures are higher than they would normally be. 2022
was the hottest year on record for the UK, Ireland, France and Spain, and it looks like 2023 is already off to a sizzling start. Still to come on the Sunday 7, why you're finding it hard to walk away from the snack cupboard, and 2023's quirkiest new gadgets. It's 2023 and you're finally kicking your junk food habit. Maybe you've tried years previous but couldn't let go of your sweet tooth. Should be easy, right? Well, maybe not as easy as you think. Scientists are calling for certain junk foods to be classified as drugs after a new study from the University of Michigan has found some foods can be just as addictive as smoking. The foods in question are what are known as highly processed foods. That's your fast food burgers and chips, chewy sweets and your favourite pack of biscuits. It's the stuff that's typically ready to eat with minimal additional preparation needed. One of the researchers from that study is clinical psychologist Dr. Ashley Gearhardt. She joined Chris Cuomo on News Nation to share the work.
What we've learned is that actually diets that are high in these sorts of foods are killing people on par with tobacco. They're killing more people than alcohol and opioids. And now diets that are really high in processed foods are the #1 cause of liver transplants in the United States, more than alcohol.
So how do these seemingly innocuous foods do so much damage?
So one of the things that we see is that the amount of sugars and fats in these foods are amped up so high in processing that they far surpass anything our brain really evolved to handle. And they hit our body so rapidly that they are as effective as something like nicotine in triggering our brain and its reward system. And we see that people know these foods are bad for them. And no one thinks that, a big chocolate milkshake and a ton of pizza is a health food. But even when people are told, hey, you have diabetes, you have heart disease, this is killing you, you need to cut down or stop, they can't.
And it's not just a question of willpower.
When we think of our processed foods, the majority of them have fat and carbohydrates that are refined and then at levels that far surpass what we see in naturally occurring foods. I don't think our brain knows what to do with that.
I think that it is an addictive substance. When we looked in this study, we looked at tobacco, where there was this huge debate. People were dying from tobacco very regularly. About half of Americans smoked. And people were saying, oh, this can't be addictive. It doesn't look like alcohol. It doesn't look like heroin. But they found that when people knew they were dying, they couldn't quit, even if they really wanted to, even if they were working really hard to do so. And so now we looked at those exact same benchmarks to say, how did we get to a point where we knew tobacco wasn't just a bad habit, it wasn't just about willpower, but it could really hook you? And that's what we looked at in this study. And we found that these highly processed foods met every single benchmark that tobacco did to be labeled as an addictive substance.
Dr. Gearhardt argues this is an issue that can't be solved by just individual choices. What we need is broader societal changes and regulations around food and food advertising to really make make a difference. It's that time of year again. The Consumer Electronics Show, the world's biggest technology show, is back with a bang for 2023, with all sorts of companies showcasing their latest tech innovations. Here's the Sunday Sevens pick of quirky tech and wacky gadgets that are making a lot of noise at this tech extravaganza. First up is a smart self-driving stroller for the modern parent. The Ella Smart Stroller is powered by robotics and machine learning. It can drive itself when there's no baby inside, for example when your toddler wants to be held rather than pushed. Also, it's equipped with sensors that watch for obstacles or dangers like speeding cars. This high-tech gadget's been designed to make parents' lives a little easier, but it's going to cost you a pretty penny. It's a whopping $3,300 US. Next up is a high-tech lipstick applicator from L'Oreal. L'Oreal's unveiled the motorised lipstick applicator for individuals with limited hand and arm mobility. According to the beauty company, the system has smart motion control and customisable attachments for more precise application. You wear a watch on your wrist, a ring on your finger, and now the latest biosensor in smart health technology is a sensor that goes right inside of your toilet. Created by the French consumer electronics company Withings, this device reads all sorts of components in your urine, such as estrogen, vitamin C and pH levels. The maker claims this tiny toilet tech can understand if you need to change something about your diet, hydration, or even something like tracking your menstrual cycle. If you currently pee standing up, hooray, you're good to go. If you're a sitter-downer, you may have to make a few adjustments.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, small lifestyle changes that make a big difference, and how much water to really drink every single day. Right after this.
You're listening to the Sunday 7. Follow us for your weekday news espresso, or even try our Ireland edition. It's in all the usual places.
Every new year, people up and down the country make grand plans to change their diet and exercise habits, only to abandon them a few short weeks later. But what if you didn't have to overhaul your lifestyle to reap the positive benefits? Michael Mosley is a science communicator and best-selling author of a number of books on diet and health. Just One Thing, How Simple Changes Can Transform Your Life is his latest, and joining Times Radio, he explained how small adjustments can make a major difference when it comes to combating disease and ageing.
There are 3 types of exercise you can do, and we know about them. There's aerobic exercise, running, walking, swimming. There's strength exercises, push-ups and squats. But then there is balance, and most people ignore the balance. And falling over is the second most common cause of accidental death worldwide after road traffic accidents.
As Dr. Mosley explains, a lot of people fall over because their balance isn't great, and there's now some evidence that the younger generation have even worse balance than their elders because they spend so much time sitting down. So, how do you improve it?
You do it basically by things like standing on one leg or doing yoga, whatever it might be. Now, when are you going to do it? Well, why not hook it to a habit you're already doing, which is brushing your teeth. You're advised to brush your teeth for 2 minutes a day. So I do 30 seconds one leg, 30 seconds the other leg, and so on.
And it's even more challenging if you try it with your eyes closed.
If you're over 40 and you can do more than 10 seconds, then you're doing well. So ideally, you should be able to do at least 20 seconds with your eyes open. But when you close them, it's much, much more challenging. And indeed, there was a study done a few years ago where they looked at people in their 50s and they measured lots of things. And then they followed them 10 years later to see who was still alive. And the single best predictor of whether you would be healthy and still alive was your ability to balance on one leg when measured 10 years previously in your 50s. So that doesn't necessarily mean that if you improve it, your life will get longer. But what it does mean is balance is very, very important.
Knowing the simple changes to make is one thing, but how do you turn these good intentions into sustainable habits?
Choose the things you think you can comfortably do, whether it is eating dark chocolate, going for early morning walks. And then ideally get your partner, if you have one, to do it with you. So one of the things I do every morning is I do what I call intelligent exercises. I roll out of bed, and with Claire we do press-ups and squats. Now, neither of us like doing it, but we do it because the other one is urging them to do it. And so we do it first thing because the trigger is getting out of bed. I talked about triggers before. So the trigger is getting out of bed. I could do them any time of day, but I won't. I know I won't do them. So Claire and I, we roll out of bed, and sometimes one says, you got to do them. The other time, somebody else says, you got to do them, but we do them. And we're gradually kind of building up. So that's the best way, is get somebody else. The only reason people have personal trainers is because they come round, bang on your door and make you do it. We all know what we should do. But so if you can't afford a personal trainer, then just do this.
Now, an update on a rewilding project in the UK. The UK's first wild bison family is now complete, with the recent introduction of a bull from Germany to the female herd. This is part of a rewilding project in Kent, where the bison are expected to have a positive impact on the local ecosystem. Similar projects across Europe have proved that bison can restore the natural biodiversity of a landscape.
We've got the building blocks of a really fantastic herd now, and they're going to go from strength to strength. We can't wait to get out there and follow and track them and see how their story unfolds.
That's Tom Gibbs, a bison ranger. What a job. His hope is that the bison's natural bison behaviours of grazing, dust bathing, eating bark and felling trees will shape the habitat and enable other species to thrive.
It's so exciting to see this moment. It's really pivotal to the future of the herd here and the project, and it represents so much, positive elements to what we hope to achieve here.
When it comes to resolutions, drinking more water is often high on people's lists. The need to drink 8 glasses of water every day has become kind of accepted wisdom and advice, to the point that many have stopped questioning its origin. But it turns out there's absolutely no science at all to back this 8 glasses claim.
Every day should not necessarily be the same amount. It should be adjusted up and down based on what you're doing.
That's cardiologist Dr. Payal Kohli from the Mayo Clinic.
That 8 glasses of water came from the fact that, based on a 2,000 calorie diet, for about every calorie that you consume, you need about 1 milliliter of water. That's about 2 liters, or about 8 glasses.
Kohli says the best way to tell if you're getting enough water in your system is the colour of your wee.
It should be very light colour. If it's starting to get dark yellow, that means you're not drinking enough.
And this also depends on where you live, what you eat and what you're doing. Whilst there's no official daily water recommendation, most people get their daily dose of hydration by drinking water or other fluids whenever they feel thirsty. The rule of thumb here is, if you're thirsty, your mouth's dry or your pee's weirdly dark, drink up. You don't have to count your glasses, your body's already keeping track for you.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.